Hello and welcome to the Supernatural Track here at Continual. I'm your host, Gail Z. Martin, and tonight we are talking about the picks and pans of seasons 1 through 3. What are our favorite episodes? And what were the ones that, when we do a rewatch, if we're really honest, we tend to skip? But before we get into that, let's let our wonderful panelists introduce themselves, starting with Kristin.
Hi, my name is Kristin Jackson. I'm a graphic designer, work a lot in the film industry, and I've been with a fan of Supernatural since the very beginning, and the first 3 and 4 seasons were my very favorite. So I'm excited to talk about them tonight.
Okay, Lynn.
Hi, I'm Dr. Lynn Zubernis. I'm a clinical psychologist and a professor at Westchester University. Been a fan of Supernatural from just about the beginning. I've written 6 books about the show, 2 of them with the cast of the show about how special it is. And like Kristin, love those early seasons. So it'll be easy to talk about ones I love from these seasons and really hard to find ones that I actually don't like that much.
Okay, Elektra.
I'm Elektra Hammond. I'm a writer and an editor, and I too started in on the very first episode, but I can always find things I love and things I didn't like as much because I'm so damn opinionated.
Carole?
Hi, I'm Carole Stokes. I've been a fan of Supernatural since season 3, started writing fanfic in 2012, and I am also the co-host of the podcast So Get This, the Lore of Supernatural Fan Fiction.
And I'm Gail Z. Martin, and Morgan Bryce. As Gail, I write epic and urban fantasy. As Morgan, I write urban fantasy, male paranormal romance. But all my modern day worlds are ones Sam and Dean could walk into and feel right at home. I fell in love with the show halfway through season 11, binge watched it in 4 months for the start of season 12, fell down the rabbit hole and have not come up for air since. And I like it that way. So, we've got 3 seasons to get through, so let's take, what are your favorites? Give me 2 or 3 favorites in season 1 and why. Kristin?
Oh, wow. I've got a lot of notes here.
Okay.
For all my seasons. Gosh. For very favorite ones, I guess the first thing that comes to mind would be the 3rd episode, Dead in the Water. When I was first trying to introduce my mom to the series, she was a little hesitant because she says she doesn't like anything horror or scary. And I said, trust me, this is a great series. You will love it. And I felt strongly enough about the episode Dead in the Water as being just an all around solid, good, ghosty story. That would appeal to her. And after we watched the episode together, she looked over at me and she was just kind of thinking. And then she said, maybe can we watch another one? And I was like, okay, let's go with the pilot and run all the way through. So that would probably be my number 1 dearest favorite. And probably the second one for all-time favorite would be Faith. I just love that episode. I love how across the seasons, they usually work in some really great music. And that has to be the best use of Don't Fear the Reaper I've ever heard on television. So between those 2 episodes, those are probably my top 2.
Okay. Lynn?
I also had Dead in the Water as one of my favorites from season 1. I think it's just such an unusual episode and so scary and so provocative. It's a Kim Manners episode, which at the time wouldn't have meant anything to us, but now, thinking about Kim Manners, I think it means a lot to us. And you can see his touch as the director in so many of the shots that are just so powerful and so memorable, from the brothers, diving into the lake to Dean coming up with Lucas, such an unbelievably striking shot. But it also, some of the best things about these early seasons episodes are that we're still learning about the brothers, and the brothers have just reconnected and are still learning about each other. And that episode also has some great moments where you see Dean really connecting with Lucas, and you start to learn about his trauma as a small child and how huge it really was. And Sam, who was younger and didn't experience it or remember it and doesn't really know, he's also watching just like we, the audience, are, and coming to understand his brother and have empathy and more understanding of his brother from overhearing what that trauma did to Dean. It's an episode about loss and about trauma, and it says so much about what the show's going to be about. The other one I just sort of picked, I don't know if it's really my favorite, but I just happened to do a rewatch of it because there's a podcaster who's watching Supernatural for the first time. So he was recording his reactions of the first episodes, and he did Bloody Mary. And I was really reminded, in my opinion, that's the scariest episode of Supernatural. It is so well done. It is so terrifying. It is so disturbing, that scene in the end where you think it's kind of over, and then in classic horror movie fashion, she comes crawling out of the mirror. Oh my God. I remember watching it with my daughter, and we were foolish enough to have turned the lights out for some unknown reason. And the two of us, when that happened, just clutching each other on the couch and going, ah, just screaming at the top of our lungs. But I love it for how scary and disturbing it was because, that's Supernatural.
Okay, Elektra.
The ninth episode, Home, where they go back to their home in Lawrence, because Sam's had a vision, because now we're starting in with the Sam being psychic. And while they're investigating this, we get some insight into John's journal, which has been guiding them on their journey. And the very first line, "I went to Missouri and I learned the truth," finally makes sense. We meet Missouri Mosley for the first time, who just does not appear nearly enough in the series. And we discover that John has been keeping an eye on them and watching them, even if he isn't there talking to them, which, I don't know, made me feel warm and fuzzy every time I see it, to know that he was there, kind of. And the other one I'm going to give at least lip service to is Hell House, because as a super fan of Blue Oyster Cult, that is the episode that has the Chronos symbol that Blue Oyster Cult uses as their logo, and Burning for You and Fire of Unknown Origin and all sorts of Blue Oyster Cult symbology all over the place. And, it's a silly episode for the most part, but yeah, it's got a lot of fun things for me, and I just really enjoy it, even if it may not do the same thing for everybody else.
Okay, Carol.
The pilot. I love the pilot. It sets up everything in a manner that you can go forward with it. You've learned so much within that first hour that you're already invested and ready to go forward with, this clearly estranged brothers reuniting, the delving into the spooky. The case itself is really spooky, scary when they're in the old house with the woman in white, and like her kids come down. I was like Lynn with, I was like, ah. So I really, really love that episode for being such a solid launching point. And then I also really love Something Wicked, which is near the end of season 1. A monster of the week, but in this case for Dean, he's revisiting a monster. It's the monster that got away. And we get our first real flashbacks of the boys as kids and what their life was like and how much was put on Dean and how much they both didn't have, like that they were doing without. And how far John was willing to go, that he left his kids in this hotel room. And it's always a little vague. Like, did he do it on purpose to lure them for the Striga? Which would be really horrible. But even if that wasn't the case, it's still pretty horrible that he knows the monster's around and yet leaves his kids alone. So any way you look at it, it's right up there in the John Winchester A+ parenting. But the flashbacks, the information they convey, how much they inform the characters of Sam and Dean and John, uh, aligned with the monster of the week. To me, it's solid, it's moving. We really feel it.
Okay. I'm gonna go with Asylum and Scarecrow. I mean, I agree with you guys on all of those. But Asylum, anybody who reads my stuff knows that I have this weakness for haunted Kirkbride style, late 1800s, mental institutions. And there are some really awesome haunted ones across the United States. And Asylum just was catnip for me on that because it's definitely pulling on all of those tropes. And I thought it was very scary. And you've got the crazy doctor, and you've got Sam and Dean kind of trying to figure out where they're being played, and having some of their unresolved issues used against them. And we start to kind of see more of the brothers' dynamic in this, and how even though they've got issues, at the end of it, they're still together and they're working things out, even though it gets pretty dicey in there. So I thought that one was just for well done horror, very good. And the same with Scarecrow. I'm sorry, scarecrows are scary, and not just crows. I think they're pretty creepy. And they really played into the horror tropes with the episode, and pagan gods and people being sacrificed, and John isn't showing up or answering his phone, and the boys are trying to figure this out on their own. And so we get the dynamic of them figuring out the case, still trying to figure out their relationship as they come back together again, and it's not the way it was before. So now what do we have? And then also dealing with this really horrifying Scarecrow. So those are my two picks. Like I said, I want to make sure we get through all 3 seasons. So if you have more favorites, jot them down, and we'll do a free-for-all at the end if there's time. So let's go to Pans. These are not necessarily bad episodes. They're just not your favorites. They're the ones that if you're pressed for time, you'll skip over. Or they wouldn't be the episode you'd recommend somebody start the series on. Kristin?
Yeah, well, I guess, I'll go with the one that I'm sure most of us are probably going to go with, which is Bugs. And I think Bugs was kind of fine, but it is something I don't really need to see that one again. I'm not really. I mean, it had good bones for it. I really think it did. It was missing something because ancient Native American artifacts and sacred ground, and the spirits coming back to prevent things from happening on the ground. It had so many great elements to it that I normally would love in a story, but it just didn't come together for some reason. So I guess that'd be the episode that I'd say was a pan.
Shady real estate developers. Lynn?
This is very difficult because the first 3 seasons don't have any episodes that I actually do skip if I'm doing a rewatch. But if I had to pick the weaker or my least favorite episodes of season 1, I guess first would be Hell House, not because it's not an okay episode, but just because it's clearly not as memorable as it should be, because I had to look up what it was about. Everything else, when I looked at the season 1 episodes, I was like, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. And I got to Hell House and I was like, wait a minute, what was Hell House? I'm not a huge Ghostfacers fan. I know a lot of people are huge Ghostfacers fans, but not that I dislike them, but it wasn't one of my favorite parts of the show. So I guess there's nothing in that episode that is super memorable for me. And then the other one that I chose, just if I have to choose, is The Benders. Not because it's not a great episode, because it is a great episode, but it's so disturbing. Yeah, I was really traumatized by the X-Files episode Home, which it is sort of based on. And watching The Benders unfortunately brought that episode back into my conscious awareness, which I'm still not over that one. Um, I'm cynical about humanity at this point in my life. So seeing an episode that's about humans instead of supernatural creatures, there's not enough projection room there. So it's not one that I particularly want to go back and see. On the other hand, it did give us that great line, demons I get, people are crazy. So it's not like it doesn't have any redeeming qualities.
Okay, Elektra.
Oh, I feel so repetitious. So I'm going to be very quick. Bugs, for sure. The Benders, they're just people. And I'm really sorry, Gail, but Scarecrow, because I have seen that trope in so many horror movies. The little town out in the middle of nowhere that needs people to sacrifice to make their crops grow is just that's so it's a trope. It's a big trope. You know, they should have seen that one coming a mile away. I guess they haven't done their lore search very well. Yeah. Don't
Okay,
need to say a lot.
Carol.
I'm joining in on the bugs. I do like parts of it. I love when they're interviewing the elderly Native American, and he's just skewering Dean like, you know who starts a sentence, trust me? A liar. So it has really great moments. But I don't like bugs, and I don't need to see bugs and spiders all over the place and crawling on people. And it's just like, no, I don't like that. And then there's the whole weird time thing where like it's overnight in like an hour. Oh, look, it's daylight. What? And my second pan would be Hookman. There too, you're talking about something that's just, I mean, I know they're doing the urban legends, but really the guy with the hook and he's scratching the thing, and we're like basically slut shaming, because God forbid a girl wear a party outfit and not be punished in a very puritanical way. And it just was like it, and it didn't, to me, it didn't contribute to the arc at all. It didn't tell me anything I didn't need to know. I didn't already know about the brothers. It just was like, it was just kind of like filler. And so I'm like, yeah, go fill the bayou.
You know, there are things I like on a lot of them, but the one that I really do skip is Route 666. It did most supernatural episodes aged, I think, very well. We're talking now going back 20 years, and I think that for 365 episodes, only a few didn't really age well with changes. Route 66 is one of those, and you've got a racist truck that kills people. It's just not a solid premise, and it doesn't age well. So, not that there weren't some parts where it was scary as hell, but then again, I think a lot of pickup trucks are scary. So even if they're not haunted, especially depending on their bumper stickers. So, that would be my pick. So, like I said, if you have other favorites or things come to mind for season 1, jot them down. But let's move on to season 2, favorites. Give us a couple of favorites, Kristin.
Oh gosh. This season also had a lot of ones that I love equally. But for things that I guess would be more equal than others would be the first episode in the season, In My Time of Dying. With Dean trying to communicate through the Ouija board and John and we're not sure. I mean, that cliffhanger was probably the most stressful cliffhangers that I've ever experienced. I remember being online speculating with people for hours and hours and weeks about what happened after the car crash, and so that was just such a great episode all around. Emotional, extremely emotional. And I guess for a second one would be just another personal favorite would be Night Shifter. Because it's got, you know, so many great elements. And again, I go back to the music. You know, the music at the end when they're playing the song Renegade. And that has to be the best use I've ever heard of the song Renegade in a TV series forever. So I guess I'm attracted to both story and pacing, but also the music that accompanies the episodes.
Okay, Lynn?
I could pick any episode in season 2. Season 2 and 4 are my favorite seasons of the whole series. So there's really not a single episode in season 2 that I don't love. I love Born Under a Bad Sign. It's one of the episodes I watched season 1 without like really falling down the rabbit hole of falling in love with the show, and then season 2 started, and by the time we got to like Everybody Loves a Clown and Born Under a Bad Sign and in there, that's when I really fell down the rabbit hole in love with the show. So Born Under a Bad Sign I have a lot of affection for because it's one of those episodes that made me sit up and go, oh my God, this is an amazing show. How did I not realize it? I love what it tells us about the brothers' relationship. I'm a huge fan of the Sam and Dean doing anything for each other and going to unbelievable lengths for each other, and how weird and unusual and compelling that is. And in this episode, we really see that. You know, when Sam is possessed by Meg, we actually see Meg being like, you know, what is wrong with you, Dean? Why are you that scared of being alone that you'd rather let Joe die than do something to stop this? And Dean, you know, Dean's like, yeah, no, I'm not going to shoot you. I'd rather die. And we start to really get an understanding of, oh, what is okay? That's a little over the top here, Dean. But I love that. It's very compelling. I also think it's one of Jared Padalecki's tour de force acting moments when he is Sam possessed by Meg. Every time I watch it, I'm just struck by, oh, that is not Sam. There is nothing about that is Sam. Just non-verbally, verbally, the way they move, the way they talk, it's uncanny how you can't even watch that and see Sam, even though you know it's the same actor. So that's one of my favorites. I love that one.
My
Um,
daddy shot your daddy right in the head.
I mean, the delivery, just unbelievable. And then the other one I picked is completely different, but I am a huge fan of the meta episodes, and the first meta episode happens in season 2. That's Hollywood Babylon. When I watched it, I was just giggling in delight, because if you were a fan who'd been already paying attention and knowing some of the things that had happened behind the scenes, you would know that some of the jabs that they were taking at producers and network, et cetera, were things that had really happened, and things that Supernatural and Kripke were actually pissed off about and were taking the piss out of production, like in reality. And I was just like, oh my God, what are they doing? The guts that these people have. I mean, I didn't understand Kripke as much at the time. Now that makes perfect sense. That is absolutely what Eric Kripke would do. But I love it. And that's combined with, again, some fascinating insights into Sam and Dean, especially how much of a chameleon Dean can be, how he seamlessly blends into any situation, and what an asset that is to him as a hunter to be able to do that. Um, I love the ending where the brothers walk into the sunset, but it's really a Hollywood backdrop. And then mixed in with that, there's some actually really terrifying moments when that producer is getting dragged toward that giant fan that is going to suck him in. I found myself screaming as I was watching that. So I love that episode. That's a real favorite.
Okay, Elektra.
Well, first one I'm going to mention is Houses of the Holy. And that is partly because it's an interesting show, and partly because for a show that ran 15 seasons, it's very clear from this episode that they hadn't planned beyond season 3. Because there's a whole long exchange between Sam and Dean where Dean is absolutely certain there are no angels, because despite the fact that there is a whole ton of lore out there on angels, he just is absolutely set that they couldn't possibly exist. And it just, in retrospect, after watching the whole series and going back to watch this, I roll on the floor laughing every time I watch this episode, and it gives me a funny where there is not supposed to be a funny quite so big, because, you know, it's only 2 seasons later that they end up practically traveling with an angel, and later many more things happen. So, you know, it's just that whole thing about, no, I believe in what I see, and I haven't seen anything that looks like an angel. So he is just convinced. And, you know, season 4, episode 1, and there it is. I raised you from perdition. The other one that I love to death from season 2 is Tall Tales. Because on top of all of the awesome things that we get Richard Spike Jr. and we get our first interaction with Bobby. And Bobby is like one of my favorite characters. I have a lot of favorite characters outside of Sam and Dean. And Bobby is just close to my heart whenever I watch anything. And I follow him through various other things now that I know about the actor and Gail Z. That is just such a fun episode to watch. You can watch it and laugh at the same jokes every damn time. Alligators in the sewers. There aren't alligators in the sewers. There are now. So yeah. I'm sorry,
Okay.
I like the silly ones sometimes.
Carol?
Well, season 2 is about my favorite season, so it's really hard to pick. I'm gonna go with What Is and What Should Never Be, which is our first real major twist to reality episode. We see it a lot in seasons to come, but this is, I think, like about the first time where they really, you know, take everything we think we know and turn it and angle it, and all of a sudden we're like in a kaleidoscope thinking, what am I looking at? What is happening? And you know, we meet the Jinn. Dean's in this apple pie world. Mom's alive. Dad died of a stroke. Everything's great. He gets to mow the yard. Oh, well, he's apparently estranged from Sam. Well, that's not too great. But Sam's happy and he's with Jessica and Jessica's alive. And then it's like, no, this is not what you think. And is he tempted to stay there? Of course he is. You know, he can be happy here. He's got the love of a good woman, you know, and he and Sam could fix things and all this stuff, but he's not going to sacrifice all those people in the world that they saved just so he can be happy, you know, and he makes that really, really painful choice, and it's just so beautifully done. Beautiful, stellar episode. And that's kind of on a grand scale. On a much more personal scale, I'm going with Playthings. One of my top 10 episodes. I just love that episode. It's very gothic horror-y. We've got this really atmospheric old hotel that's this old mansion, and it's getting mothballed. They're moving out and it's going to get destroyed, and you know, there's this mysterious little girl, and just the way, you know, we've got the creepy dollhouse, and we're seeing the guy, you know, hanging from the little dollhouse fan, and like there, oh look, there he is. And you know, so many beautiful creepy little elements, you know, the ghost story, the hint of the hoodoo, um and also Sam struggling with the fact that he might be a monster and being unable to reconcile himself to that, to the point where he begs Dean. He gets totally stinking drunk and he's adorable, but begs Dean that if he goes to the past the point of no return, that Dean will kill him before Sam hurts anybody. And of course, for Dean, this is like, just rip my heart out and throw it on a plate and, you know, put it in the oven, because he can't do it, but he does finally say the words, even though deep in our hearts we're pretty sure he doesn't mean them. But you know, the interplay between them is just exquisite, and then set in this really beautifully crafted, finely honed, ghostly tale. You know, there's no big things. It's just like all of this nuance and atmosphere, and oh, it is just beautiful. And yeah, I can watch that till the cows come home or the dollhouse closes.
I'm going to go with Croatoan. I mean, it's so well done. It's very post-apocalyptic. We get to see Jensen run right past the cameras that can't keep up with him. But it's just so well done. And this idea of what the future could be like, and the guys are still grappling with, well, you know, we just hunt monsters. How are we involved in this? Why is this hinging on us? And so I love that episode because it's just so damn scary. And then I'm honestly going to go with the heartbreaker, which is All Hell Breaks Loose Part 2, because it's such an awesome season ending, and we get this raw emotion as Sam dies in Dean's arms. Sorry, spoilers, it's only been, 14 years. And Bobby says we need to go, and Dean's like, no, let him come. And he just intends to die there with Sam. And so despite their issues and problems that they've been working through for the 2 years, this is the brothers at their rawest point. And we see what it really means to Dean to lose Sam. And we know that nothing good is going to come out of this. So it's a perfect setup for the start of season 3. But in terms of character, Sam trying to protect the other special children, they all end up dead. It's just him and Jake. This is not going well. And, as a season finale, I thought it was perfectly crafted. So, your least favorite episodes. And like I said, if you've got some more favorites you didn't mention, jot them down and we'll blow through them at the end. Kristin?
Well, just first tagging on to that episode of what is and what should never be. Mackenzie Gray, I've stayed in touch with him for all these years, and he is such a lovely man. And here he played just this really terrible, scary monster with the gin. And I tease him about that. I was like, you really have a good career as being a bad guy. You should consider that. So for just things that I really didn't care for in season 2, I'm not a big fan of the psychic Azazel's psychic children storyline. It's just not. It doesn't really appeal to me, especially because it really never went anywhere. Sam's psychic abilities and the telekinesis and everything else just kind of disappeared. So there was never really a follow-up to that sort of thing. So I just didn't like it because it was such a dead-end storyline. And for me, an episode that I really just wouldn't want to watch again would be Heart, because it was such a painfully emotional episode, and especially at the end where Sam has to go shoot Madison and Dean has that flinch. And that's all you need to see. Is you don't need to see any of the bullets or anything else, but I can't watch that again. That was just too heartbreaking, too painful.
Okay, Lynn?
Yeah, I'm going to pick ones also that I just don't care to watch again. Not that they weren't great episodes, but I just don't care to watch them again. One of those is All Hell Breaks Loose 1, which is when Sam dies at the end in Dean's arms. I remember watching it live, not knowing what the next episode was going to bring, and being legit traumatized for the entire time until part 2 played. Even though trying to tell myself, oh, Jared Padalecki is not going to be recast or leave the show. Sam's going to come back. It just that image of that was just really hard. It just stuck with me. So I find it very hard to watch that episode, even though it's a masterpiece. I mean, to wring that much emotion from your viewers, that's brilliant, but it's just too hard to watch. And the other one I picked, it's out of all the episodes of season 2, which I love the entire season, it's probably the one that I just care about the least or is the least memorable, just because it's kind of dark and depressing. That's Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things. It's such a sad episode. It's all about loss and our understandable desperation not to lose the people we love, which I think I can relate to. Everybody can relate to, but it's so sad to see that, the guest star of the week's desperation and the lengths that he goes to, and how tragic and sad it all turns out. And it's made extra sad by knowing about Dean's deal and what's happening with him. So and with John, and it's so the whole thing is just sad. So I don't really enjoy watching that one too much.
Okay. Yeah, I had the benefit when I watched All Hell Breaks Loose is I came to the series late. So I already knew we were going into season 12. I knew they got Sam back somehow. So it wasn't as bad as watching it in real time. Elektra?
Yeah, I will point out that I'm not crazy about the psychic demon kids either. That's like one of my least favorite storylines. The only one I think I like less is the Leviathans, which I really, really dislike. The one I don't like to watch is Hunted. I really don't like finding people that will, anyone who can kill pets is just, yeah, no, I'm not watching that again. I will avoid that at all costs. No offense to all you dog people out there, but I'm a cat person, and if they're going out there to kill people's cats, yeah, no, I can skip that one. Thank you. They just weren't any fun either. The ones that went dark side were just bad. Sam was fighting it the whole time. Even when he was drinking demon blood, he was doing it because he thought he was trying to fight demon possession. He was not doing it to be evil. And anybody who's like, yeah, I can do this and I can just like be psychotic at people. Yeah, no, bad.
Okay. Carol?
I agree with Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things. I didn't like it just because it just wasn't that interesting to me. But the other two I really had was Everybody Loves a Clown, which had redeeming moments, but overall it was like blah. It just didn't do anything for me. And Roadkill, which to me seemed to be a set piece just because they had a guest star who at that time was immensely popular, and they were like, oh, we have this guest star, so we're going to do this thing all about it. Like, it just seemed so contrived to me. It did not feel like an organic episode. It felt like this very separate thing where they were like, oh, we're going to do this because we have her and it's going to be, performances were fine. I liked kind of the storyline where they find the old guy who's supposed to be scary, but it turns out he really loved his wife. But it just did not fit the flow of the season. It didn't fit the flow of Supernatural as we knew it at that point. And, and I like the actress too, but it was kind of like, why are you in here stealing all the thunder? And it wasn't her fault. It's how they wrote it. But yeah, so I'm just like, yeah, I don't need to see that one again.
Okay. And I'm going to go with Crossroad Blues. It didn't hit me right. I didn't like they're still trying to kind of figure out the demon deals. And I really didn't like the guy that they ended up saving. He was kind of like, really, if you could have just let him go, he wasn't really worth saving. So that's probably the one I'm going to pick. Now, season 3, give us your top 2, Kristin.
Oh my gosh. Wow. I'm looking at my notes.
So tough.
Oh no. How about, okay, Well, let's just go with Mystery Spot. You gotta go with that one. with, with poor Sam having to wake up, and that's another, again, it's another music thing. I can never hear the song in the heat of the moment without immediately thinking of this episode. It's like it's the supernatural has ruined that song for me. And poor Sam, it's just watching all the million ways that Dean dies is it's funny, it's tragic, it's funny and tragic. It's just such a great episode. And I love Gabriel anyway, so that was great. And I don't know, I guess Justin Bellow would be a second favorite. And I really wish Agent Henriksen had been a character that they hadn't killed off. They should have kept him around because he was a great sort of inside man that really could have had a lot of potential. And in a way, I almost felt like he was a civilian version of what could have, like a Cass, but in the normal, human side of the world. Um, but saving the police station and fighting it out and having Lilith show up at the end as a scary little girl, that was just a really great sort of an episode that lends itself to the mythology of the show.
Okay. Lynn?
Um, season 3, not as much of a favorite of mine as season 2. But I really love the episode Bad Day at Black Rock. It's one of the episodes when I go back and I just want to watch one episode to just escape or put myself in a good mood or whatever. That's one of the ones that I often watch. It's got some truly scary and horrific moments to it, and it's a dark story, and it's got dark humor, but it is so funny. It's one of the first episodes where you really realize how funny Jared and Jensen are and how good they are at comedy, because a lot of actors who are really good actors are not necessarily good at comedy. And I still don't know if to this day they both really realize how good they are at comedy. The scene where Dean with the Batman and the whole ridiculous series of events, Sam, I lost my shoe, and the way he just falls out of sight there, and then that unbelievable scene where Sam's trying not to itch his nose and not to move, and the curtains in the motel catch on fire. I mean, it's like slapstick kind of Three Stooges level comedy, and they and the guest stars just pull it off seamlessly. So I love that episode. It has so many memorable moments in it and memorable quotes. Um, for the other one, I'll just pick this one because I don't think anybody else will pick it, and it's a favorite of mine for a random reason. But I like Dream a Little Dream of Me. I also love the character of Bobby Singer and love Jim Beaver and think he's just a great human being, but also really talented. And so this is one of the episodes where we start to get more backstory on Bobby. Bobby has, become at this point somebody who's really important to the brothers and a father figure to them. So I love that we actually get some of his tragic backstory that helps us understand who he is and how he got to be who he is. I'm a huge fan of backstory. So anytime there's a character that I love and we get some backstory, it's always wonderful. It also shows a lot of evolution. We're in the middle of, well, it turned out to be more than the middle of season 3 because it's a cutoff season, but what should have been halfway through season 3, we're starting to see Dean really kind of rethink his blind allegiance to his father and sort of be a little more in agreement with Sam in understanding that his father might have been trying to do a good job as a parent, but he was, sort of an obsessed bastard who couldn't protect his family and went off on a revenge quest. And we also see Dean's sort of prescient fear of the future, and Dean being afraid that his deal's coming due and he's going to go to hell, and is he going to become a demon? And he admits to Sam finally he doesn't want to die. He's afraid to die, and Sam is determined to save him. So it's a point also that kind of brings the brothers back together. But the real reason I love Dream a Little Dream of Me is because I think it was the first episode that I watched them film. We were in Vancouver and we stumbled upon filming, and we spent the day at a little hospital where Bobby was in the hospital room, and it actually was a day that didn't go very well because they, at that point, were not really very happy about fans being on the set. And so we actually got unceremoniously booted off the set for not doing anything, but just for being there. And we were very upset and sort of humiliated and walked away with our tails between our legs. But before that happened, it was super exciting just to be there and to be actually watching them film and to see Jared and Jensen coming and going and to see Jim Beaver. So I still have a fondness for that episode from that experience.
Okay, Elektra.
Well, I'm going to go lighthearted again. I'm going to agree wholeheartedly with Kristen that Mystery Spot is just, I love time travel stuff and time loops and just watching the stuff go happen again and again and again and ordering breakfast and just watching Dean die again. And it was just so funny. I will watch that every time I come across it. Just happen across it. I will make it a point to watch that just because it's too funny. And in the same vein, I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I love the Ghost Facers. I really do. Not everybody has to, but some of us will. And I love that Ghost Facers episode. They try so hard to make it like one of the real haunted house people doing a real investigation, and they are so without clue compared to Sam and Dean, and they're trying so hard and they're messing up so bad, and it's just a fun episode. I mean, fun as it can be when somebody dies. But they learn so much about each other, and even then, in the end, either Sam or Dean, I don't remember which one, leaves like a dead fish in their car for them to find on their way to Hollywood. It's one of those really fun ones. So, this is a fun season for me before, the inevitable happens at the end of the season and Dean dies. There were a lot of depressing episodes on the way to, death.
Okay, Carol.
I have to second Justin Bello. Again, probably on my top 5 episodes. I positively adore Victor Henriksen, and yes, it's terrible that at the end of that, he knows everything. What a great asset. What a wonderful hunter he would be. Oops, only he's not. And thank goodness for fan fiction where he got to live on in many other various realities, including one of mine. But yeah, the side characters, Nancy, the demure secretary, and her deciding that what the heck was she she was waiting for, and she's going to have all the sex, but then the guy's like, and she's like, well, not with you. So really great little comedic moments in the middle of it, but super scary with all the demons surrounding it and killing everybody and blowing the helicopter up. And so just really terrific episode. And for my second one, I'm going with A Very Supernatural Christmas, which hits so many beautiful spots with the picture perfect white pillar house town and the meadow sweet wreaths and Madge and, oh my gosh, I can't believe I can't remember his name, but the couple who are so, all about the playing bridge and fruitcake, but oh no, they're really bloodthirsty pagan gods. And the whole way they've thrown themselves into assimilation, as they make sure to tell us they understand now, is just so great. So that aspect alone is amazing. But along with it, we get flashbacks again. And we get flashbacks of them as kids. Sam has figured out what's happening. He's read the journal. Poor Dean is trying to kind of tell him to man up about it, but yet also help him out. And we find out about the amulet, and why it's the amulet that Dean wears all the time, and the amulet's backstory and stuff. So it's just, they got so much in there, and both aspects are so beautifully done. I mean, the flashbacks even kind of have that sepia tint, and and poor Sam is rolled over to like pretend, so that he can cry, not in front of Dean, and so Dean goes out and steals presents. I mean, oh, the feels are just incredible for both aspects, and yet tons of humor. Sam, Dean telling the elf, oh, he likes to watch, them breaking into the drunk Santa and like having to sing Christmas carols. And, like I said, the pagan gods, and their house looks like, Santa threw up in it. It's just got jolliness everywhere. And just masterfully done.
Well, you guys got my favorites, and I was going to say A Very Supernatural Christmas. So, but Carol covered it. So, nice job. Now, we're going to need to do a lightning round here on what we didn't like. So, list the episode, brief reason why, because I want to have a chance to go around one more time and let everybody know where we can find you online. So, Kristin, what's your pan?
Okay, I have a few meh. But the one that I just can't watch again is the Magnificent Seven. The drinking, the forced to drink the drain cleaner. It just, I stopped watching. I cannot watch it again. I will watch the all 15 seasons of Supernatural and I will skip over that one. That is just, I can't watch.
Okay, Lynn?
Yep, that's my number one, can't watch it either for that exact scene. But I actually don't really like The Kids Are All Right very much. I like Lisa as a character, but I thought it was so heavy-handed in its, oh, look, Ben is just like Dean, chip off the old block. He's an 8-year-old womanizer. Ha, ha, ha. What? That is A, not funny, B, ridiculous. He's in the latency stage. No, that's not what's going to happen. So I really didn't like the way they did that. I didn't think it was funny. I thought it was way too over the top.
Okay, Elektra?
Time is on my side. The doctor who was attempting to make himself immortal by one bit at a time. And I love Billy Drago as an actor, but I find that almost unwatchable because it's just too creepy. Let's just leave it at that.
Okay, Carol?
Long distance call. It's boring. Like,
Kiss of death.
I just don't even care about these phone calls. The guy who's doing it is gross, and watching him get skewered is just disgusting. And yeah, that's an episode I never need to see again.
Okay. I'm going to go with Ghost Facers. I'm not a huge fan of the Ghost Facers. I get the joke. It kind of gets belabored to me. I think they do a good job with doing exactly what they're supposed to do, but it just always falls flat for me. Well, folks, we've gone through a lot of seasons, through the first 3 seasons. I know there's still more we could say, but we are out of time. So before we wrap, let's give everybody a chance to say where we can find you online. Kristin?
So these days, I guess you could find me on Blue Sky, ANICAT 68, AnyCat 68.
Okay. Lynn?
You can find me on all social media, Blue Sky, X, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. Fangasm SPN. You can find the books on Supernatural that were written with the actors of Supernatural on the website peacewhenyouaredone.com or at any bookstore or Amazon.
Okay. Elektra?
You can find me at untilmidnight.com, and I spend most of my social media time on Mastodon, where I'm Elektra at wandering.shop.
Okay. Carol?
You can find me on many, 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 many continual panels. And in the Facebook groups, the continual Facebook group and the TFWNC group that Gail runs. And as Ellis Colton, I'm an romance author, and all of my social media links are at elliscolton.carrd.co. And my books are available on Amazon and Smashwords.
Okay. I'm pretty easy to find at gailzmartin.com, morganbryce.com. If you spell those right, you'll find all of my social media links, and I'm on most of them. I run Continual, which is the online ongoing convention that never ends, and the Supernatural TFWNC group. Most of the time, you can find me right here doing panels. So thank you so much for being with us tonight. And thanks to all of you for watching and listening. There will be more Supernatural coming up on Continual. My dog has an opinion. So I'll see you online.